I've heard the stories for years, legends whispered in the dark, tales of the Dogman lurking in the forests. Most people laugh it off as a local myth, something to scare the kids. But I'm here to tell you it's real. I saw it with my own eyes, and I'll never be the same again. It started on a weekend camping trip deep in the backwoods of Michigan. My friend Matt and I had planned this trip for months, a chance to escape the noise of the city and lose ourselves in nature. We were seasoned campers, always seeking the most remote, untouched parts of the wilderness. That's how we found ourselves in the Huron-Manistee National Forest, far from any trails or campsites. The first day was perfect. The sun was bright, the air was crisp, and the forest was alive with the sounds of birds and rustling leaves. We set up camp by a small, clear stream, pitched our tents, and built a fire as the sun began to set. By nightfall, we were roasting marshmallows and laughing under a sky full of stars. I remember thinking how perfect everything felt, peaceful, serene. But that peace was short-lived. Around midnight, Matt suggested we go for a night hike. The full moon cast a silvery light across the forest, and we didn't even need our flashlights. We wandered along the stream, chatting and joking, until we heard it, a low growl that sent a shiver down my spine. It came from somewhere deep in the woods, off to our left. We stopped, straining our ears to listen, but all we could hear was the soft babble of the stream. Probably just a coyote, Matt said, trying to sound casual. I nodded, but my gut told me otherwise. Coyotes don't growl like that. I've heard coyotes before. This was different, deeper, more menacing. We kept walking, but my eyes kept darting to the trees, scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. Then we heard it again, closer this time. A growl, followed by a snap of a twig, and a low, rumbling snarl that seemed to echo through the forest. Matt froze, and I could see the fear in his eyes. I knew he was thinking the same thing I was. This wasn't a coyote. This wasn't any animal we were familiar with. We decided to head back to camp, our pace quickening as we moved. The forest, once so inviting, now felt oppressive, the shadows deeper, the air heavier. I kept looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see something stalking us. And then I did. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of movement, a dark shape darting between the trees. I stopped, my heart pounding in my chest, and squinted into the darkness. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, but then I saw it again, something large, moving quickly, silently, just beyond the edge of my vision. "Did you see that?" I whispered. Matt nodded, his face pale. We both stood still, listening, but all we could hear was the pounding of our own hearts. We were about to start moving again when we heard a rustling behind us, followed by a low, guttural growl that sent chills down my spine. We turned slowly, and that's when we saw it, standing about 30 feet away, partially obscured by the trees. It was tall, at least 7 feet, maybe more, with a broad, muscular frame covered in dark, matted fur. Its eyes glowed yellow in the moonlight, and its mouth was full of sharp, gleaming teeth. It stood on 2 legs, like a man, but its head was unmistakably canine, like a wolf or a large dog. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was like something out of a nightmare, something that shouldn't exist. Matt and I were frozen, our bodies refusing to move as the creature stared at us with those glowing eyes. It took a step forward, its growl deepening, and that's when the smell hit us, a rancid, foul odor that made my stomach turn. "Run," I whispered to Matt, barely able to get the word out. We turned and bolted, crashing through the underbrush, not caring about the noise we were making. All I could think about was getting away, putting as much distance between us and that thing as possible. We ran blindly through the forest, branches whipping at our faces, our breaths coming in ragged gasps. Behind us, I could hear it crashing through the trees, its growl turning into a roar that shook me to my core. I didn't dare look back, didn't dare slow down. I could feel it gaining on us, could feel its presence like a weight pressing down on my chest. We burst into a small clearing, and that's when Matt tripped. He went down hard, hitting the ground with a grunt. I skidded to a stop, my heart hammering in my chest, and turned back to help him. But before I could move, it was on us. The Dogman burst into the clearing, moving with terrifying speed and grace. It stood there, staring at us with those glowing eyes, its breath coming in ragged huffs, each exhale sending clouds of mist into the cold night air. Matt scrambled to his feet, and we backed away slowly, not taking our eyes off the creature. For a moment, it just watched us, its head tilting slightly as if studying us. Then, without warning, it let out a deafening howl that seemed to shake the very ground beneath us. It charged, and in that split second, I knew we were done for. But just as it leaped toward us, something strange happened. A bright light suddenly filled the clearing, blinding us. The creature let out a yelp and skidded to a stop, turning away from the light, shielding its eyes with its massive arm. I blinked, trying to adjust to the brightness, and saw a figure standing at the edge of the clearing, holding a flashlight, a park ranger. He shouted something at us, but I couldn't hear him over the ringing in my ears. The Dogman snarled, backing away from the light, its eyes narrowing in anger. The ranger advanced, the beam steady in his hand, forcing the creature back into the shadows. "Run!" he shouted at us, and this time we didn't need to be told twice. We turned and ran, the ranger covering our retreat with his flashlight. We sprinted through the forest, not stopping until we saw the faint glow of our campfire through the trees. When we reached the camp, we collapsed by the fire, gasping for breath, our bodies trembling with fear and exhaustion. The ranger appeared a few moments later, his flashlight still in hand, his face grim. He didn't say anything, just sat down across from us, staring into the fire. After a while, he spoke. "You two are lucky to be alive," he said, his voice low. "Most people who see the Dogman don't live to tell the tale." He went on to explain that there had been sightings for years, reports of a strange creature lurking in the forest, but no one had ever gotten a clear look at it, until now. We packed up our camp in silence, the weight of his words hanging over us. As we hiked back to the car, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that those glowing eyes were still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting.